Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Investing Bros on this Friday show. We got a lot to talk about today. A very interesting price prediction was made, and it's not like this prediction is all over the internet. It was one, though, that T. Shroom found last night, and I thought was very, very interesting. I'm probably going to reference this a little bit more, but let's share my screen here real quick, and I want to kind of walk through where this price prediction came from. There was a great tweet put out. Now, this tweet is going all over Twitter. It's from CryptoCon. That's at CryptoCon_. Pretty much, there's a theory. He's working with the Fourier cycle, going through other things, talking about how the tops and bottoms of every single bull and bear market have been plus or minus 21 days. We'll take a look at that in the technical analysis section, but I'm going to go and let you know that kind of checks out right there. He then goes ahead and he prints this graph where he kind of shows you a timeline of what this would look like, and this is a beautiful thing. It is very accurate. I do think there will be a day, ladies and gentlemen, I think there's going to be a day where this is no longer accurate, but for right now, I've put I think mine's a little bit out of this range. I've put my top of the bull market somewhere closer to the end of October, but hey, maybe we slip into early November and this prediction stays true, that tops and bottoms stay within 21 days of November 28th. Now, here is the prediction. There's another one made over here by the Gold Prairie. Very interesting prediction. It will be $600,000. If you go to this guy's page, his pinned tweet right here, November 2013, $600. November 2017, $6,000. November 2021, $60,000. November 2025, $600,000. And then he goes on to predict November of 2029, $6 million for Bitcoin. Ladies and gentlemen, is this possible? We're going to talk about that during the technical analysis section, but make sure you go ahead and stick around, hit that like button. If you are new here, subscribe to the channel. We are the Investing Bros. We go live every single weekday from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and usually on Saturdays. We do have a sad announcement with T. Shroom. We're about to bring him on. He's just really feeling the weather. You guys know I'm kind of getting out of being sick and probably need to spend some time with family this weekend because Taylor is going out of town here soon. So this is not a normal thing, but tomorrow morning on Saturday, we will not be having a Saturday morning show. We will be back next week, though, so don't get too sad. We're just taking tomorrow off. With that said, though, I do want to introduce my amazing, fantastic, beautiful, hopefully not too sick co-host, Mr. T. Shroom from down in Florida. T. Shroom, how are you feeling, my man?
Oh, Tim, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. That's good. I just remembered that I ended the show really early. Yes, not really early. You did. Seconds early. I apologize for that. I deserve worse, but I'm better than I deserve, I think, objectively. Wow. So that's really good. I've got a quote of the day, and it's on theme. Good. It's on theme, and that is this. Being sick, sorry for the blurriness, guys. Being sick is just your body's way of saying you're way too awesome and you need to slow down so everyone else can catch up. So that one was really good. I've got another one, though, a bonus round quote. And you guys are going to love this one. Being sick can seem like all fun and games until you no longer live with your mom.
That's a true one. That's a true statement.
I had to make my own chicken noodle soup last night. Now, I happen to love making chicken noodle soup, like deeply, probably more than someone deserves to. And it was delicious, but I wish that my mom had made it.
Yeah. There's nothing like a good mother-made chicken noodle soup.
That's right.
Although every now and then I remember as a child, because I do have a lot of memories about that, she'd sneak in some cut-up carrots, and I did not like that. I'm fine with it now, but as a child, trauma. You know?
See, I'm a big carrot guy. You're going to see a lot of carrots in my chicken noodle soup. That's right.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, guys, I want to thank each and every single one of you guys for being in here. Again, let's see in the comments. Here's the new thing, guys. I will read the names and the chat of the most interesting chat here this morning. What I've seen so far, I loved what I saw from Mr. J. Shout out to Mr. J saying, I have been lying this whole time. I'm not even into crypto. I just come to hear Tim's deep, smooth voice say my name. Well, there you go, Mr. J. It's a very problematic thing. A lot of the chat is not loving this, guys, and I'm sorry. We'll get over it. We'll get through it. You guys know that I love you. You guys know that you come over into Discord. We say names all the time. In fact, T-Shroom and I nonstop. Like, if you guys wonder what we do behind the scenes, we are just 24/7, with the exception of the 1 hour of the show. Yeah. We're doing nothing but saying names.
Yeah.
But it is time to mature and to move forward. You guys know that we love you, but shout out to each and every single last one of you. We'll maybe later on the show, if we get 100 likes, maybe we'll read some names to end the show today. Yeah. This show also might be a little bit shorter. Yeah, T-Shroom just not necessarily feeling top notch this morning. We're probably gonna get in, get out, and we'll be recuperated and ready to go at 1,000 miles per hour on Monday. So if you guys love that, hit the like button. If you want some names read, let's go 100 likes. Let's get 100 likes before we get to the end of the show. Yeah. Let's go ahead and get into our economic calendar this morning, though, T-Shroom. Yeah. This morning at 1 a.m., Fed Barr spoke. Don't know what he said. We'll have to look into that. But I don't think, based off the charts, not really thinking there's anything significant happening there. We'll see. We'll see if there's any ripple effects. There's nothing really that happens next week until Wednesday. And on Wednesday, we've talked about this before, but we will be getting core inflation. We'll be getting the inflation rate month over month and year over year, as well as core inflation month over month and year over year. So that is going to be very, very big. We're going to talk about this later on in the show, because there are certain people now coming out saying they do believe that the interest rates are officially over. But as we know, with Jerome Powell and the Fed, you never know what they're actually going to do. These numbers could be a big, big part of what their next stop is. Then you go to September 14th. That is Thursday. We'll get retail sales month over month and the PPI month over month. Friday, to wrap it out, we'll get the Michigan consumer sentiment. So that will be interesting. Got to wait till a little bit later in the week to get some bigger news, but definitely want to stay tuned for what those numbers are. Let's take a look at our liquidations here over the last 24 hours. Bitcoin with 38 million, almost 39 million dollars of liquidated Bitcoin. Let's see, 13 million of those were longs, 25 million of those were shorts. Again, small fraction compared to the overall market cap of Bitcoin, but that was a lot of money that people lost playing it a little too risky. But as a whole, that actually caused Bitcoin price to move slightly to the upside compared to where it was yesterday. Ethereum, though, green, meaning it went down this morning, because that means more longs were liquidated. $7.7 million of longs were liquidated versus 5.3 million shorts. So kind of a mixed bag there. We're going to look at the charts in a second. Not a whole lot of volatility. Not a lot of movement happening. There was a little bit of volatility picked up yesterday, but not enough to really change all that much about the markets. Let's take a look at our Truflation. Let's get an update here. We were at 2.66 yesterday. Big drop down to 2.59. That's a 0.07% drop over the last 24 hours. So that is a move in the right direction. Keep moving on here, looking at our Fed Watch tool. Remember, not next week, but the week after that. So we're 12 days away. We will get another FOMC meeting. Everyone is expecting at this point, well, technically not everyone, 93% of the people predicting here, but the rest of us, I do believe, are expecting to go ahead and get a pause. We're going to stay at 525 to 550. 93% saying that is what's going to happen. Let's take a look. Are we moving it to May? No, May is still saying we're probably going to stay paused. Does look like June of 2024 is still the expectation from this CME futures tool, saying that will be the month we get our first rate cut after, at that point, over 2 years of rate hikes and a couple of pauses. Let's keep moving on, though. Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index coming in a little higher this morning. Not necessarily great. Still in the fear, but it jumped up from 41 to 46, despite the fact that the price really didn't do that much. Now, it could be that when they actually printed this, maybe that was right after the short-term rally. So we'll have to take a look at that on the charts. But I'm going to expect, unless price makes a big move to the upside today, going to expect probably going to drop back down somewhere around 41, 42, maybe even down to 40 by tomorrow morning. Again, we won't have a show, so you guys will have to check on that yourself. Just go to alternative.me/crypto/fear and greed index /. Is that backslash or forward slash, T-Shroom? Is that do you know what those are?
That's a /.
All right, /. Can't say everything correctly. All right, let's keep moving on here and move into coin market cap. Let's refresh the page, just get the most up-to-date data. Again, not a lot of big movers, but they are green. Bitcoin not up even 1%, but 0.6%. Ethereum 0.07%. So that's very slight. Not really much of anything happening right there. Let's take a look. Any big movers over 1%? Solana up 1%. Toncoin down 2%. Polygon Matic down almost 2%. Any other significant movers? Stellar 1.5 coming in at number 21. That's our top 20 we're looking at right now. Let's take a look at biggest gainers, biggest losers. XDC, they're like making a – at this point, this is not financial advice. However, XDC is the epitome of flip-flopping. If you see green one day, you're probably going to see red the next day, and vice versa. XDC was a big loser yesterday, but today up almost 6%. Could be an interesting coin to watch out for, guys, with some good volatility happening for some interesting trades. Kronos up 4.46%. Aster up 2.34%. Dash up 2%. Algo up 2%. Render up almost 2%, HBAR up almost 2%. Some interesting coins there. Let's take a look at our biggest losers. 5% down for synthetics. Well, guess what? That was one that was up yesterday, wasn't it, T-Shroom? I'm pretty sure it was. So we're flip-flopping here. Synthetics will be green then red, and it looks like our biggest gainers, XDC and synthetics, kind of just flip-flopping each other. DYDX is also down 4%. Kava down 2.47%. Toncoin down 2%. ApeCoin down 2%. ApeCoin continues to take a beating, guys. Just continues to move to the downside. So NFT, it's not NFT time, guys. That's really what we're talking about right here. Not NFT time whatsoever. We already talked about Matic being down 2%. Quant down 1.36%. So that is our market open. Nothing necessarily too crazy to the upside or the downside, but there was a little bit of movements there. Let's go to BroCam real quick. We're about to enter into the chart section. We're going to talk a little bit about that $600,000 Bitcoin prediction. Go ahead and put in chat. Do you believe $600,000 is potentially possible in this next bull market? Give me your reason as to why yes or why no. We're going to break that down here in just a second. But T-Shroom, do we end up getting a little trivia question of the day?
Yes. So while I'm sick, the elves did come through. I remember to send them a text last night. And man, they've got a good factoid of the day for us today. Okay. Let's go ahead and check this bad boy out. Name the law that created the Federal Reserve. A, Monetary Reform Act, Americans Against Poverty Act, Federal Reserve Act. What is this? Or the Money Printer Go Burr Act. Okay, that is ridiculous. I'm going to have a talk with these elves. But that seems to be our factoid of the day.
It's not going to be the Federal Reserve Act. I think that's a little too on the nose. And I don't believe Americans Against Poverty Act is an actual thing. I think that one's a little too on the nose. So I'm going to have to go with A here, T-Shroom. Monetary Reform Act. If it's D, I will lose my marbles. Let's put it that way. If D is the correct answer, that would be phenomenal. Indie Rock Crypto says B, Americans Against Poverty Act. You guys know something I don't? Steve B says D. Okay, I see a couple B's, a lot of D's. You know, I think we're all wishing at this point, T-Shroom, that it is D.
A lot of D's in the chat. Well, we're going to get to the answer to that factoid here in just a few minutes, aren't we, Tim?
We are going to get there. Let's go ahead and revisit the charts real quickly. Let's take a look at my screen, T-Shroom. Let's just quickly look at the markets before we break down this prediction, this $600,000 prediction, and I get to give my take on it. Love to hear yours as well. So last night we did get a move above that $26,000 level. You guys remember on the show yesterday, I said I want to see a move above here with some explosive volume. And technically we did get a little bit of volume here coming up. That's a little spike, but it was not enough to sustain, and we ended up dropping right back down to some resistance levels kind of right here on 25.8, kind of hovering in that zone right now, 25,800. So we're still not picking up the momentum that the bulls need. And again, these pushes that we're seeing, I talked about it before, this grayscale push that ended up falling short of even the 28.6 I thought it could get to, and then crash right back down within the next day. This small push late last night that took just a couple of candles on the 4-hour chart to come back down to the same price level. It's like these little waves of the bulls. They don't have a lot of strength right now. I still believe, ladies and gentlemen, that this in reality is it's just kind of a capitulation zone before we move to the downside. I still think we're going to be dropping below 25.2. You're also going to see using our Chart Prime oscillators. You guys know Chart Prime is phenomenal. We use them every single day. I use them all the time in my private technical analysis for my own trading and my own investing stuff. So even if we don't talk about every single coin I ever look at on the show, if you guys go get Chart Prime, you will have an amazing tool to be able to make your own informed decisions. And ultimately, that's what I'm all about. I want to continue to do a daily show for community, to be with you guys, to help continue to walk through this together. However, the goal would be that you guys are all able to make informed, intelligent, and amazing decisions for yourself. And Chart Prime is just one of the many tools that could absolutely crush it for you and helping you make some amazing gains in trading. Go check them out with a link down below. You guys are seeing we got that nice overbought orange box as we rallied up here. We got that red reversal. We got overextended on the RSI, and it's not printing it. I don't really know why it's not printing it because I in fact, you don't see one since all the way back here, back on August 23rd. But guys, that's an engulfing candle if I've ever seen one. Massive, if I were to make this full screen, massive red histogram following a very small green histogram. That is engulfing candle. That's one of the things that you're looking for to say, hey, that's a good reason to be bearish if I get a bearish engulfing candle. And sure enough, we came right back down very, very quickly. So not necessarily anything bullish happening. Really, in reality, it's mostly boring price action happening. Let's look at our Bollinger Band, see what that constriction looks like. 4-hour chart. It had that big movement after the grayscale, but now we consolidated again, had a little bit of a movement, but now we're right back down to the 20 SMA for the 4-hour chart. Let's take a look at the daily. Kind of seeing some small constrictions here. Why am I blanking on that word? We're constricting really closely right now on the daily chart, so that is probably implying a bigger move will be coming. On the daily chart, I want to look at one more thing. We did not reference this yesterday, but this is kind of all over the place right now. I don't know why that one looks like that. Let's take a look here. Let me change my settings for these SMAs because we are seeing, ladies and gentlemen, oh, that's a problem. I got to go pull up my 50. We are seeing what is called a death cross about to happen on the daily chart here on Bitcoin. Now, let's pause right there. Death cross. Ooh, really scary. Really gets you going there and makes you feel like everyone's going to die. That's a classic tool by people who named it, and they want to try to scare as many retail investors out of there. The problem with the death cross is it's just not a reliable tool for anything. I want to take a look at some other death crosses we have seen on the daily chart. So we saw one back here right on January 13th. Now, January 13th, this is a situation where actually this death cross was a good call. It happened right at a peak. We ended up dropping. How far did we drop after this death cross? 26%. But then that little bottom ended up starting a multiple month kind of movement here from January to the end of March of actually some more bullish activity here for Bitcoin. So there's an example where this daily death cross actually was a good sign that the bottom was not in and we're going to keep going to the downside, right? Great. Let's go back to the last one. The last one before that was back here on June 21st. And while technically it wasn't quite yet to the bottom, you're going to notice just a couple of candles later, we bottom out and start a new bullish pattern. So again, now we have a mixed bag here. We have one that actually kind of called a top pretty nicely and gave you some good reaction for a dip. This one, on the other hand, though, if you had reacted to it, your bottoming out pattern, it was somewhere like right here. You would have only, even if you had caught the exact wick, 18%. So it's not necessarily terrible, but it was very quick. And most people treat death crosses like you're going to see massive losses here. That's not that big of a loss whatsoever. Keep going back in history to some other death crosses that we have sustained. There was one right here. We're going to see a couple in here in this tight timeline. This is right after COVID, but as you guys can see, death cross comes in. That's just the beginning of the bull market. So this one would have lost you a lot because we just went to the upside on that one. There was no negativity. There was another one right here. Boom, happens, kind of gets right in the middle of this rally. We rallied a little bit more, dipped a little bit more. More than likely, that's kind of that's the same kind of timeline we're at right now in the 4-year cycle. So that one, we could see something similar like that happen. Let's go to the last one here that I'm going to talk about today. Boom, right here, death cross. We bottomed out, actually made a good rally to the upside after this death cross. So my 52%, wow, good Good gracious. My point here, and I went back and wanted to show you some history. Do not be concerned with death crosses. Guys, if the price of Bitcoin goes down, it is not because of the death cross. It is because of other things happening. If the price goes up, it has nothing to do with death cross. The death cross, I've heard some people say it's a false statement, a false indicator that means price is about to rally. That's not true. We just went over and looked at the history over the last 4-5 years of death crosses, and what we're seeing is there's no consistency whatsoever. There's nothing it actually tells us. You got to look for other indicators. But I wanted to bring that up because I'm sure you guys have either already heard about this death cross or you're about to hear about this death cross. Keep your head on your shoulders. It doesn't mean that much whatsoever. Now, that being said, could we see a little bounce here? I still think, even though I'm kind of sitting in the boat where I think I'm leaning a little bit more towards us going below 25.2 rather than shooting back up to 28.6. Theoretically speaking, guys, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me to see us have a small bounce and move to the upside. This death cross ends up being a fake out. It ends up being something that moves us to the upside, but then we still get some sort of crushing news that comes in that actually ends up hurting us. We'll talk about this probably even a little bit later in the show. I'm all over the place today, but I think you guys are kind of sticking with me. I feel like I'm making congruent points here. Something that we got to keep our eyes on. This was brought to our attention this morning by Army Piper. You guys know him. We love him. Hopefully we get him on here again soon. But this was a tweet put out by Bob Heineman. Shout out to Bob Heineman. Go follow him. He only has 464 followers, so go give Bob a follow. But he put out a good chart here from the Fred, and this is something to keep your eyes on, something that I alluded to a couple of weeks ago, even months ago, saying, guys, I don't necessarily know if we're out of the woods yet when it comes to recessions. On this chart, you will see 12 different circles. These are the last 12 times that we've crossed below this level right here. And then when we get back to it, a recession starts. This happened back here in 2018. This right here is 2008. This is 2003. 2004 area. I'm not going to go through all the dates, but anyway, every single time that this chart gets below here and starts to move back up to this level, a recession happens. Now, I don't want to freak you out too much. We're not saying it has to be a repeat of 2008, even though there's been a lot of irresponsibilities in the economy with our government. That could be a bad recession. But even if it's just a slight recession, like what we had back in 2018, that still would be something that would bring negativity to the price of Bitcoin. So there's a lot still on the table right now when it comes to Bitcoin. What can make price go up? What can make price go down? Keep your eyes on something like this. We are not necessarily out of the woods of a recession just yet. A lot of things could still factor in to bring that to the equation. My point here is I can't tell you with 100% certainty, is price going to go up first or down first? We know long term, it's going to go up and to the right. That's just what's going to happen. But in the short time frame, keep your eyes on these levels. Again, I'm going to continue to say this. Let's get some increased volume. I'll use the 4-hour chart for this. Let's get a spike in volume when we start to increase here towards 27,000 and break through it. If I'm seeing a high volume, then guys, more than likely we will see a push back up here towards 28.6, maybe even go a little higher, maybe even make a push up towards 29,000 back up to this former support level. But if we start to get closer to 25.2, and then all of a sudden the volume starts picking up and we see some wicks dropping below 25.2 with that high volume, that is the confirmation the bears got what they needed. And even if we pause at 23,000, 22,300, those are levels. There's kind of a box right in there. I'll go ahead and just draw that because we'd reference it so frequently. There's levels of support right in this region right here, ladies and gentlemen. Watch out for that. I still believe, though, long term, we're going to see a sub $20,000 level. What we're looking for at this point is volume coming in telling us, do the bulls have control or do the bears have control? So that's the Bitcoin TA for this morning. But now let's talk about the title. Let's talk about that ridiculous $600,000 price prediction brought to us by the Gold Prairie, saying not only are we going to see $600,000 in this 2025 bull market, he's saying $6 million in the 2029 market. Now, technically speaking, ladies and gentlemen, it is possible, but let's talk about why it's unlikely. For us to get to $600,000 on Bitcoin, this would mean we would need darn near close. It's right beneath it technically, but almost a $12 trillion market cap, not for crypto, but for Bitcoin alone. a $12 trillion market cap for Bitcoin alone. Now, I've heard some people defending this, some people saying the reason why that's possible is because that's the current market cap of gold. I don't believe that, though. I mean, that's true. It's the of gold. I don't think in this bull market, even though people are starting to wake up to the fact that you can compare Bitcoin to gold, this isn't the bull market where people kind of let that exchange happen and all of a sudden Bitcoin becomes more valuable than gold. It's not going to do that. More realistically, ladies and gentlemen, instead of 11 or 12 trillion dollars coming into Bitcoin, I think we're going to see 11 to 12 trillion dollars come into crypto. Then you have to do this factor. And I'm going to make some videos on this in the future, but we're going to see 11 trillion roughly come into crypto, and we're going to see Bitcoin really only have about 30 to 35% of that, which is why the more realistic prediction for Bitcoin is somewhere in the range of more of 150 to 200,000. Also, when you look at, let's go to this chart again. Let's see what, I'm going to go back here just a little bit and go back to the chart he's referencing. You can see very clearly, and I'm not saying that Bitcoin is going to keel over and move the downside. It'll continue to move up and to the right, but the explosive rallies and the explosive percentages that we keep gaining, they're slowing down. Clearly, Bitcoin is starting to curve a little bit more. So I do think it's time to really start to cap your expectations. I believe 600,000 is potentially possible by 2029. When you go back to his prediction of 6 million in 2029, that to me is also a little bit too crazy for right now. I do see DJ Crypto. I think he disagrees. He says 12 trillion market cap is not that hard if ETFs. Here's why it is actually hard, DJ Crypto, if there's ETFs, because ETFs historically don't necessarily come with massive bullish movements. In fact, some people have gone back and they push against this, but I'm going to continue to say it. In fact, I think even when the ETFs get launched here, more than likely the end of year, maybe early in 2024, that will not come with an immediate spike in price levels. Why? Well, guess what? If we're going to sit here and say, well, Bitcoin, we got to start comparing it to gold, and gold's at such and so that means Bitcoin has to. Well, let's be fair with this entire equation of what we're talking about here. This right here is the date back in November of 2004 when we got the gold spot ETF. Do you guys see what I see? Did the gold price just skyrocket the minute we got that approval? The answer to that question is no. In fact, we actually saw how many weeks. This is the weekly chart, by the way, guys. So even though it's not that many candles, that's a good, decent amount of time. We're seeing 40 weeks. 40 weeks is just short of a year. We're talking about 3 months short of a year. So 9 months. It took 9 months after actually getting an approval of a spot ETF for gold to move to new highs and to start actually getting explosive. Same thing's going to happen with Bitcoin. But even then, guys, gold, it's not like it just took off like a lightning bolt with God candles. It took a long time. It took a very long time to build to where its current levels are. I'll go ahead and even say, like, while we're hovering right here around, we're lower in this bar, we've had 3 different peaks here around $2,000 per ounce. We hit nearly 2,000, got to 1928 back here all the way in 2011. But when you're looking at that, 2004, 2011, guys, I'm not the greatest at math, but that's 7 years. It took 7 years to make those explosive gains the way it did. I think the same thing is possible for Bitcoin. I think, listen, as much as I love Bitcoin, and I love what it's going to do in the future, people just get way too excited, way too bullish. Learn to temper your expectations, invest for the long term. But I just hate to break it to you guys. History says when the spot ETF happens, guess what comes with spot ETFs? It's not just the ability to long Bitcoin. It's also the ability to short Bitcoin. Well, guess what that does? That allows a lot of people to continue to manipulate the price, and especially those who are wealthier, who have longer durations of patience than a lot of us retail investors who want to get rich right now. They have no problem waiting 7, 10, 15, 20 years to see life-changing wealth in their investments that happen today. You've got to continue to think that way. There's going to be a lot of life-changing wealth that happens with altcoins. There's lots of altcoins that we probably don't even know the name of right now that will probably do things like 1,000x. When it comes to Bitcoin, though, what's going to make it legitimate, what's going to make it approachable by institutions in Wales is the fact that you're not seeing a massive, crazy amount of volatility. You're going to see some more consistent price action happen. And guys, I do believe we're going to see a $1 million Bitcoin at some point. I believe we're going to see multiple millions of dollars be the price equivalents of one Bitcoin. It's just going to take some time. In the long run, though, when it comes to Bitcoin, This price prediction, $600,000. While I love the timeline, I love the concept that we're probably seeing it somewhere around late October, early November of 2025. If you're waiting for 600,000, you're going to have to wait for a while. Again, you might be waiting till 2029 or even after that. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Clearly, DJ Crypto, love you being here. He says, I'll take 150K. I agree. I'm completely fine with people disagreeing with me. That's actually what I love. I love when people have different opinions. Speaking of different opinions, T-Shroom, do you have a different opinion? What is your take on this price prediction and the charts and everything we kind of just broke through?
I think it's possible.
It is possible.
I just don't think I don't think this is the cycle. I think that's a next cycle thing, but it is pretty cool how he's showed, on, what is it, November 28th, there's that consistency every time.
Which one? Because I agree with the November 28th of bottoms and tops. The one where he's like, it's at $6 and then 600 and then 6,000 and then 60,000. I'm like, okay, that's to me, that is a way more convenient trend that he's looking at, not necessarily a consistent, predictable trend. Also, the way he's doing his math there is as if Bitcoin's potential to grow exponentially will increase, when in reality, as you start to get into the trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, you're really more talking about that decreasing. So it's an interesting theory to get us from where we've been up to this point. I just disagree with the fundamentals of it being moving forward, that we're going to keep every single 4 years in the month of November, we're going to see something about 6 and then added zeros to it. I disagree with that take very much so.
Okay. I like it, man. Well, here we go. We got the answer to the factoid of the day, and that is, remember the question.
Yeah.
Name the law that created the Federal Reserve.
A lot of people said B. A lot of people said B.
Yeah. So, all right. So here's the answer. The answer is C, Federal Reserve Act. This was passed by Congress in 1913. The Federal Reserve is responsible for regulating the country's money supply and making the money printer go burr. So that's a lot of fun. Hopefully you got it. I saw a couple people in the chat got it right.
I saw a lot of B's. I said A.
Yeah.
A was what made more sense to me.
These elves are getting kind of sneaky with their writing. They're a bunch of science teachers.
Let's see. Who did say C? This is an opportunity to read a name or two. If you guess the right answer, you get your name read. I see you said something. You tagged Crypto Billy and said C. Did he say C?
He just asked what federal, which one it was.
Interesting. Well, we just got a super chat from Rugby Jesus. All right. Does that mean he's like the best at rugby? That's a sport I would love to have played when I was younger.
You'd have been good.
That's a man sport. All right. The Bitcoin spot ETF will move faster than gold because of the 21 million fixed supply. I agree. I'm not saying it won't move faster and having in my opinion, but I still love the analysis. All right. Thank you so much, Rugby. Yeah, I agree. I think that I don't think it's going to be exact one-to-one perfection. My point, though, is that, again, not only do we see ETFs that people thought were going to be a really big deal kind of not deliver all the results they thought it would, you do have to also remember volatility still stays there because of the manipulation moves. And we're more than likely going to get the approval of Bitcoin ETFs before the halving event. And the real catalyst, like when people talk about the 4-year cycle, the 4-year cycle is really only as good as the fact that at this point, halvings happen every 4 years. In reality, I think that the 4-year cycle will be debunked when the rate of which we're getting to halving cycles stop being every roughly 4 years. That's the real reality of what's going to happen. So while we have ETFs and those are really big, nothing in this world is a better bullish catalyst for Bitcoin than a halving event, because you're slashing the supply no, you're not slashing supply. You're slashing the new supply. There's a technical name for that, T-Shroom, but I'm not technically an economist or anything. When you slash the new supply by half, but the demand continues to increase, and that's where the ETF is cool. It brings in more demand, and more people are learning about it. At this point, we're roughly estimating maybe 5% of people in the world even really have a decent understanding of what Bitcoin is as the understanding of Bitcoin increases, but also we're seeing the supply continue to decrease. And then you also have the fact that we're having billionaires probably are going to die and their Bitcoin is going to die with them because no one will be able to access it. Supply going down and demand going up is the epitome of why price will increase. It just takes a little bit longer than a lot of people want it to. Don't get me wrong. I would love if you said, Tim, let's have a vote about where Bitcoin price will be by the end of 2025. I would vote for 600,000. I'd vote for 6 million, but it's not going to happen. It's not likely to happen. I guess anything is possible. If hyperinflation happens, guys, 6 million might be too low. We might be talking about like hundreds of millions of dollars if hyperinflation happens. But again, not putting my cookies into that basket for my predictions. I'm going to go ahead and be more modest and stay around 150. 150K for me is a good spot for Bitcoin.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the stories because the actual not federal chairman, but one of the chairs of the board, Fed Bar, he had a speech this morning. And there were some tweets that covered it. So this one from Redbox Global, Federal Reserve Vice Chair for Supervisional Michael Barr says Fed is a long way from any decision on issuing a central bank digital currency. Fed Barr says Fed will only proceed with a digital currency with clear support from executive branch and legislation from Congress. So they must have been getting a ton of mail, or some kind of communications about the CBDC concerns around Fed now, and they're trying to address that. But there was no comment on monetary policy, economic outlook in the prepared remarks. So there may have been some in the question answer session if there was one, but yeah. So that's the reporting on that. We're going to go through these headlines pretty quick, guys, and wrap out the show a little earlier than we usually do. But FBI says North Korea Lazarus Group was behind the 41 million stake hack. So,
yeah,
I don't know if that's the final word on it, but
yeah, I was telling T. Shroom about this. This is interesting, and I can't say with 100% certainty it's false. I think it's always interesting when a American government agency blames someone that is an enemy of America for something bad happening. I'm not saying it's not true. I just think that evidence being presented would be a good thing. And I'm not trying to be pro North Korea either by any means. I'm just saying it does a little bit sound convenient to say, oh, we have an enemy, North Korea. Let's blame them for something really bad happening.
No. For sure.
And the other thing, I guess, maybe it's legitimate because honestly, T-Shirt, even like thinking that's really not that much money. $41 million is really not that much money.
Well, I wasn't going to get to it, but they talk about how the attacker's digital footprints are connected to the Lazarus Group. These certain wallets have been identified as their wallets, but it is kind of a who's to say type of thing. Yeah. I mean, you trust the FBI. These days, they're a little shady, but. All right, taking a look here, we had a huge story yesterday. Apple shares.
T-Shroom. What you got? I hate this. I did not notice this until right now. Did you realize we are matching?
Goodness gracious.
We didn't even talk about this.
Yeah, that's funny.
Good.
Apple shares fall after a report that China has banned the iPhone use by government employees. And then there's an update from this, from Watcher.guru this morning, that China expands iPhone ban to local government and state-owned companies. So that's accelerating. I will say, guys, I did sell my Apple stock. I was right at break even. So I was just trying to start a long-term position in it. But now I'm probably going to try to buy a little lower. This is not good, though, geopolitically. You do not want to see this. It's a sign of distrust of the American government, or of the Chinese government towards American
businesses. Yeah. And to be, like I said, I referenced this a little bit yesterday over on the BitBoy show, that I'm not saying war will never be fought with blood and flesh, but I think if people don't think we're at wars of types when it comes to cyber activity, you're fooling yourself. And I think this is exactly what it is there's certain things that China does. We've seen government agencies inside the United States ban their government agencies from using TikTok because they're very concerned about what China's doing with TikTok. Well, now we're seeing China not allow their civilians to use things like ChatGPT. They're not allowing now. They don't want their people using Apple iPhones because they're worried about cyber attacks. Like, this is the future of how things will go back and forth. Is there's not trust there. They'll still meet together and look and hold hands and smile, but in reality, we're at a cyber war with China right now, and so it very much makes sense. It's bad for Apple stock, bad for things here in the American economy, but it's one of those things that, can you really blame China from making that move? They know what we don't talk about, and that is that there is a cyber war happening, and they're trying to steal our information. We're trying to steal their information. So it is time to start making moves to try to limit that activity.
No, you definitely can't blame the Chinese government. I mean, you can blame them for a lot of other things, but not for trying to protect what they think is, national security interest. But I will also point out that I don't know if it's, I believe Huawei devices are limited in the United States. I don't know about banned, but TikTok is banned from government use on government phones, at least. So we kind of cast the first stone in a lot of ways. The U.S. government did, at least.
Yeah, it's true. And this is all leads to, before we transition to story, we've talked about this before, and I'll be brief, but this leads into, remember, we've said this on this channel, everybody, that at a certain point, I believe Bitcoin mining will no longer be something that happens for profit. It'll be something to keep one country from having too much power. We've said that, like, Bitcoin can be used as a form of warfare in terms of power and value from country to country. And we're seeing China become more pro crypto as America's kind of on a decision point, deciding if we want to be pro or against it. Watch Bitcoin enter as part of the war between China, Russia, and the United States. Again, flesh and blood, maybe not, but cyber, absolutely. And Bitcoin could play a major role in that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, our last headline here, U.S. interest rates high enough to tame inflation and avoid recession, says the Chicago Fed yesterday. The economists predict low inflation and a resilient economy, a potential Goldilocks scenario for risk assets, including cryptocurrencies. Further tightening may not be needed, the economist said. I mean, you pretty much get it here. Whoop, didn't mean to go to just me, but isn't it nice?
It's nice.
Oh, man. So, yeah, guys, sorry. I'm really feeling under the weather, but wanted to at least bring you guys, some of the headlines here. A little bit less of the insight on the headlines, but I think, Tim, you pretty much nailed it all down pretty well, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, like, there's not a lot of news going on right now, guys. There's a lot of noise happening around. So this is, again, we preach this day in and day out, week in and week out. Continue to think for yourself, continue to watch for moves of manipulation, continue to watch and dissect information that comes in. Is it opinion? Is it factual? Does it have high impacts? Go and look at how it responded on the charts to kind of tell you even the significance of these stories. You got to continue to think for yourself and learn how to read through the BS and know what is true and what's not. Don't FOMO in and don't FUD out. Think critically, and you will be very happy long term. We're going to end it early today, guys. Of course, again, it's the weekend. T-Shroom is it's kind of like day by day. He's getting worse. I'm getting better by better. But in honor of you guys, go ahead and smash that like button. I told you guys we got to 100. We'd read some names. We didn't get there. We're at 80, but I have faith in you that we're going to get to 100 by the end of this. I'm going to wrap it out, and we're going to read 15 names, T-Shroom, and we're going to call it a weekend. So shout out, we're going to go instead of the first, we're going to go to the last. Shout out to Eric Brubaker, Indie Rock Crypto, Mike Lowry, Elo Brown, DCA and Prey. Let's see, Ninja Glock, who's been saying "Say My Name" over and over again. Let's get a couple more. Crypto Billy, Joker's Wild, Clay, Rochelle, Carmelo Fernandez. I'm not counting to 15, but we're just going to get a couple more here. Gia S, Crypto Antagonist, Sawtooth Hiker. See that name a lot here. Good to see you here, Sawtooth. And then we'll do last three: Justin Eubanks, CBD Suddy, and Thorin. Guys, as always, if I didn't read your name, it's not because I don't love you. It's simply time for us to now end the show. Get some rest, everybody. I know there's stuff going around. It's not just here in Atlanta. Obviously, it's down there in Gainesville, and I've heard from friends in other places. There definitely is stuff going around. It's flu season. Protect yourself, but don't get nuts. We love you guys. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you again Monday morning. Adios.
make paper, turn that batter to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots, stack bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA. Shout it out loud on the PA. T-Shrooms news, catch a word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Trying to make paper, turn that batter to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots, stack bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.